Good.
Okay, well, let's see. We're gonna before we even
Can I get that comment list? Yeah, I could see comments, right? Through here?
Don't read the chat. Now, let's see.
Okay, you don't want me to read the chat.
Oh, you could read the chat if you got thick skin. If there's any.
I love that. That's like my favorite part, bro. Come on, I've lived through this.
Are we live and can you hear us? Question mark. Okay, I got one. I got the encryptuses in our backstore in our backdrop, making sure that. Let's just see if we get a text. This has been. You'll explain what the rig job was here. Some of the stuff is in boxes because you're setting the studio up and you're getting back into regular life. Holy cow! Let's see. I'm not going to be able to read the chat at all. My mic is.
Oh, you can't read it?
Audio. Your mic is not on. My mic is not on.
Your mic should be on. Can they hear me?
In the section, his is yes. So my mic. Why would my mic not be on?
Okay. You're plugged in.
I'm plugged. I hear myself through the. I hear myself through it. Let me go to StreamYard and see what's going on here.
No, it's not on StreamYard. It's on my end here.
His is perfect, and mine is not on. I hear you through his.
That's weird because you're.
Okay, this.
Your mic levels are fine. Like they're showing on the roadcaster.
Unless so both audios, I can hear you both fine.
So this is Viva Frey's show, and I'm your host, Enrique Tarrio. You can't hear him.
Look, I'll tell you, this is. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, but I'll just make sure before we even get going, I get two people saying the audio is good.
Okay. We can hear him. Yeah.
Hold on.
Your mic's not on.
I'm just going to go listen and hear what's going on Rumble before we get this going. Rumble?
Okay.
Well, I got one bar on my phone. We'll see in a second. Okay, but while we do this, people, it's fitting that you have the interrogation light.
That's the whole meaning of this room was supposed to be like an interrogation room.
I get the. Hold on, let's see if I get the. Let me just make sure here. Are you sure? Question mark. They say they're hearing me through your mic.
That's impossible. Maybe your levels are low, but I got unless you're mic number 2. Yeah.
Mic number 2. I'm gonna keep this going here. Hold on 1 second.
So let me drop my level.
And right. Mine
so they can't hear me right now. Right. So I'm gonna raise your level. Go ahead.
Okay. Now I hear myself louder, but I'm gonna see what it sounds like via
Rumble.
Okay, we're gonna press play now. I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna see what it sounds Chat is typing this in.
You're good.
Okay, we're gonna press play.
So your audio is good. I'm gonna bring my levels up a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm talking from across the room. You're good. No, so it's my mic. My audio is coming through your mic.
Impossible because look, I'm gonna bring my mic to 0.
No, so it's my mic. My audio is coming through.
Impossible because look, I'm gonna bring my mic to 0.
Okay. But now I have to continue talking in order to hear.
So here we go.
But now I have to hear myself talking in order to hear.
Well, because you have your. So just so people know, I'm gonna give Fry a lesson in equipment. Obviously, right now I'm looking like crap because my equipment, but I think my equipment's working because I think both of us are coming through the stream.
It says, "Oh, are you on my laptop?" Hold on a second. Do I have to go check my audio on my computer?
No. So what we're doing is we're running video through your laptop, right, on my Blackmagic, and then the Rodecaster is doing audio through here, right? So the Rodecaster, my computer's actually doing both of our audios.
Yeah, that's
so let's do this. Get back on Rumble.
Okay.
We'll do one more test, and I'm pretty sure it's working.
I hear what they're saying. I sound like I'm coming through a different mic. Hold on a second.
Oh wait. Actually, wait. There is a problem. Hold on.
So right now, everyone's going to hear it through the computer.
Yeah, but it's gonna sound like shit.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, let me while
So-
we're here, let me focus this a little bit.
So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna try Firefox. It's a problem. I'm gonna talk loud so they can hear me. It's a problem with Google Chrome on the Mac when it comes to the audio Roadcaster Pro. So I'm gonna come in, and then I'm gonna make sure that my mic settings are good.
Yeah, now I'm getting the message that you sound like I sounded before because you're coming through the computer. I'm like, we'll get this, and okay, this has been years in the making.
All right,
it'll take an hour to get to.
Now,
Go mute.
let's go over here. All right. Sorry, we're a bunch of boomers. All right, so right here, you're gonna add me to the stream, right? Add, and then we're gonna go single person setup, and we're gonna mute this microphone.
Okay.
Right. And we're gonna see if your lovely audience. We're gonna see if your lovely audience can hear us now.
And let's see. I'm going to get a text from either Encryptus or.
I think we should be good right now
Let's see.
because I am flowing. My audio's flowing through here.
I'm gonna get this. Hold on, and we're gonna do this. Encryptus, who is texting me, as are a couple of other people. How are we? His audio is perfect.
His.
And hold on. Well, Encryptus, tell me, do we got both of them now?
5 by 5. We got the thumbs
We
up.
are good. All right, for goodness sake.
Yes.
Enrique, I say, like, for something that's been in the making for years.
Okay.
People can. We're an hour. It took some time to get this set up, and this is fine.
Yeah.
Because I never thought this was going to happen. Everybody in the chat, everybody knows who you are, but
I hope so.
We're getting. We're gonna go a little. I watched your interview with Brianna Morello.
Okay.
And there was one thing you said in there that I would have. I want to dive down into deep into the rabbit hole. But first of all, who? I mean, everybody knows who you are, but tell everybody who you are.
Okay. Well, my name's Enrique Tarrio, and I was the chairman of the Proud Boys. I'm not going to comment on my status of the Proud Boys now, but I was sentenced to 22 years for seditious conspiracy. And as of almost exactly to the moment, 2 weeks ago, I was pardoned and released from federal custody, where I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life.
What is the? I mean, we're going to get into it, and the Proud Boys when it got started and everything. But chairman does what? What does the chairman do or did?
Chairman, as chairman of the Proud Boys, I had no executive authority over the guys. I can't tell the guys, hey, you got to go do this or you got to go do that. I'm more of the voice of the club. And then in our structure, how it was, I was like the president of the Senate per se, because I was the tie-breaking vote when it came to leadership, if it were needed. And I think I've only had to use that like 2 or 3 times. And we don't vote on I could cuss here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. We didn't really vote on like real world shit. We voted on like stupid things, like where we're gonna have a party, where were we gonna go for our fests and things like that. So it was never like a serious vote on like, some people think that like we're like some type of militant organization, and we're not. We don't have that top down structure. We're very loose, very fun. We don't take ourselves seriously. I think the mainstream media takes us more seriously than we take ourselves.
I mean, just as a structure, is it a club? Is it a not-for-profit? Is it a corporation? Like, what is the structure? Or just an assembly of people?
No, you came in at an interesting time. Last night, there was an injunction by the court that took away the trademark Proud Boys, which was actually trademarked by a non-member of the organization. So I don't know what they take it. We have no organizational structure. We never wanted it. We don't do fundraising. We don't take dues at a national level or international level because we are an international organization. All we do is our chapters are very autonomous. If they raise money at a local level, that's up to them. But at a national level, there is no structure. There is no LLC. There is no Proud Boys entity.
You say at a chapter level, and it sounds like a frat to me. And I don't mean that in any demeaning or denigrating
Well, that's
way.
exactly what it is. It's a fraternity.
Okay. And so there's
a brotherhood.
There's state level chapters, organizations, or are they municipal? Like, are there multiple per state?
So that's a like like that question's is very, the answer is very broad because some chapters are based in cities, some chapters are based in states, some chapters are based in regions, like our Pacific Northwest is an entire region of 3 states. Then here in Florida, we have a state structure where there's 6 zones, actually, I think 7 zones, and then they're broken up and there is like a state structure. But again, it's not each chapter itself, each local chapter is autonomous from the organization as a whole, but there is like there is a consensus and there is official chapters and unofficial chapters, and unofficial chapters usually consists of, if you operate for about 8 years and you kick out enough guys, then there's enough guys to create a chapter, and then those guys pretend to be Proud Boys, they pretend to go out on the streets, and that's basically how it rolls.
Okay, and we're going to get back into it because I mean, there's some more to explore there. But you know, I'm from Canada, and we're going to get into this as well. Proud Boys designated a terrorist group in Canada, but it's sold as a white supremacist group. And when I was
you Canadian,
Canadian,
actually, the founder of the group, Gavin McInnes, Canadian,
and we'll get into like what the hell they've ever done in Canada that could warrant that designation. But I've got my theories. But it's sold as being a white nationalist, racist, far right group, and the joke goes, you're quite you have a dark complexion.
I don't know what the white balance on my camera is because we're still setting
I'm
it up.
looking to see if I'm sufficiently tanned yet, but I'm getting there.
I got a lot whiter in prison because I didn't have any access to the sun, but yeah, I am pretty dark. I know why like you're asking, because you want to like ask the question. So, but I hate identity politics. So like that question comes up, and like the basic answer is I don't give a shit what your race is. We never have, we never will. We don't have this DEI thing, or we don't have this only white thing or this only black thing. Like, as long as you're born a man and you believe the West is the best, you can be a member of our group if that local chapter accepts you. Obviously, if you're a fucking retard, we're not going to take you in. So obviously there's those social issues, period. But like those are the 2 requisites that we have in as far as membership goes.
How many members nationwide in America?
How many
members? How many Proud Boy members in America?
So, I can't tell you right now because I don't know if we've grown or gotten smaller. I'm still getting in the groove of things for the past 2 weeks, so I'm catching up. I'm doing a lot of catch up. But before I got arrested, we had 35,000 members within the country, and we had another 10,000 outside the country across the world. So grand total, give or take, 45,000. Again, I don't know if the numbers went down or went up.
Fair enough. And it's, I mean, I hate the identity politics element of life, where someone looks at you and says, oh, you're Jewish, therefore you must think X, Y, and Z, or you're Cuban, therefore, or the child of Cubans, therefore it's weird that you'd be in a white nationalist organization.
It's retarded.
Fraternity.
It's retarded. Like any
well, they'll describe you as the Cuban face of white nationalism, and that's why you're a race traitor. And if I don't have a problem with the Proud Boys, I must be one of them self-hating Jews. There's no limit to the stupidity.
You're Jewish?
Yes.
Oh, I'm gone. You see, like they'll probably clip that and be like, oh look, he's anti-Semitic. No, we don't give a shit, dude. Like I don't personally, I don't give a shit. Again, like you can't be a social retard and try to join the thing because you won't pass the vetting process.
No, and I mean, I taught people know, I don't hide it. It's just like the being Jewish is not a defining element of the way I think, nor is it a discrediting element for the way someone else thinks. But it is just ironic that the organization they call white nationalists, white supremacists, whatever, the chairperson is son of Cuban immigrants, which is what you said in the interview with Brianna Morello, which I thought was interesting. You said, I'm just a street kid from Miami, and we're about the same age, right? You're 40, 44?
Oh, man.
Uh-oh. Are you?
I'm 40.
Yeah, okay, that's not so bad. Jeez, I thought for a second I was like off by.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. When you get to 40, it feels different. So like every small little like year is like.
Well, did I tell you how old I was?
No.
Although I just said I'm
4. You look like 52.
Yeah.
Shit
See, that doesn't bother me.
Fuck you. You told me I was 44.
I'm 45. Okay. But like, so my knowledge of street life in Miami in the 80s is
Yeah.
Miami Vice. What is street kid in Miami? It's late 80s, but what's that like?
So most people, I guess, I'm a city kid, right? In Miami, what we call city kids is like if you're in the city of Miami, in the township of Miami, which is it goes all the way from downtown that spans a couple miles west. Okay. And then that's how I was born and raised and through my middle school years. And then my high school years, I was called un sabuesero, right? Which is a Southwestern, a Kendall Westchester homie.
Is that good or bad?
No, that's good. It's just different. There's like a different vibe. But again, yes, I am a street kid. I was raised in the street. I was a little fucking biker breaking windows and shit like that. I mean, I wasn't in the hood. I don't live, like my family wasn't rich, but they weren't poor, they're middle class family. So I live in a middle class neighborhood. And I still live in a middle class neighborhood, and it's rich in Cuban culture. We still go to the neighbor's house. We still get coffee in the corner. Everybody's outside. So even though it's a big city, it's a very tight knit community.
Okay. And I had your mother on. She gave me an interview shortly before you got.
She probably did better than I did.
Well, first of all, she was amazing in that you had the most powerful advocate for you while you were on the inside. And I mean, I don't know what she was like growing up. Strong woman who could convey the message. But what was so your childhood with her as a mom, your mom, your dad? I mean, were you say breaking windows and getting into the trouble?
Yeah.
In a serious sense, or I mean, what were you?
No, so like I wasn't like I can't tell you I was like a bad kid, robbing and stealing shit. Although in my late teenage years, after I moved out, I started stealing motorcycles, right? But before that, I was your typical like just neighborhood kid that would go around and like ride our bikes, play football. We'd go to the beach on bike, which if you live in Miami, that's pretty far.
Mm-hmm.
So to us, that was like the journey to biking in a big group to the beach was like, it was an adventure for us at 13 years old. So, but yeah, I wasn't a troubled kid. I wasn't like, I can't tell you like, I did a lot of drugs like later after my teenage years and just testing out, it wasn't like an addiction or anything like that. So I can't tell you like I was poorly raised, like my mom was always there, my dad was too. My dad's like your typical dad, a Cuban dad. He's very quiet, very stern, very patient. So like they're polar opposites, and I get a little bit from both. I think I get my spark from my mom. And obviously, like, well, here, I'll hit that other topic in a second, but I get like my resilience and my patience from my dad, and I get my social personality from my grandfather. But my mom, before any of this, she wasn't political at all. Like the most political thing she did was go vote in 2016, and she voted for Hillary Clinton because she's a woman, yada, yada, yada. But then after I got arrested, it's kind of like she got that saddle that I had and she kind of picked it up, put it on the horse, and she ran with it. So now I know where I get my public personality from, and I also get it from my mother, which I didn't know before.
It's fair. Well, fair enough. You understand yourself better in retrospect than as you're living through it. But the period then, did you say stealing motorbikes?
Yeah, I used to steal motorcycles.
And do what? Resell?
So what I would do is you'd steal. I wouldn't technically. Yeah, I would steal some of them.
I think we're past the statute of limitations anyhow.
I'm like doing the math in my head. I'm like, 20 years. No. Damn it, I put myself at 35. That's great. I just took 5 years off my life. But regardless of the fact, we'd steal the bikes, or I'd send people to go steal the bikes, or I'd buy stolen bikes. And then I get on eBay and I buy a frame with a clean title, and I just
swap out the parts.
Yeah, shave down the VIN numbers on everything, the identifying numbers, and stamp new ones. And then it was a pretty good business because you'd get a stolen bike for anywhere from $500 to $1,000 on eBay. The frames with the clean titles were $1,000, maybe 2 days of work, and you'd sell the bike for $7,000, $8,000. So as a kid, as a teenager, that was great money. I also stole cars.
And did, if I may ask, did you ever end up getting into trouble for this?
Yes, I got in trouble. I usually learn from my mistakes. So I got in trouble once for it. They gave me some probation, whatever. It it went off. Later on, I got in trouble again on a white collar crime.
Yeah, I gotta ask, which was what?
Which was rebranding. It's crazy because that's like when a cop pulls you over, you ever been arrested? And I have to answer this question. So, and it's like the most ridiculous thing in the world. So I'm like, I pull up and I pull down my window and yes, officer, blah, blah, blah. You know, he does all the ticket thing. He's like, you ever been arrested before, sir? And I'm like, yeah. What have you been arrested for? That's it. They already changed their demeanor. What were you arrested for? I'm like, rebranding and relabeling an FDA device. And he's like, what?
An FDA, Food and Drug Administration.
Food and Drug Administration. I was relabeling diabetic test strips.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think I asked this to people outside of Miami, and they don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But you ever seen on like the poles on the street poles, like this little sign that says "We buy diabetic test strips"?
Never in my entire life, but I was brought up in Canada. Okay, I'm not sure if it's a thing there.
Now that I tell you, when you
we buy diabetic test strips,
cash.
Okay.
So I would buy them, and then they had a very high resale value, right? So I'd buy it like $10, and you'd sell it $50, $60, and I created a business out of that.
A business which is operating outside the bounds of the regulatory infrastructure.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what's illegal about it. I didn't have a license. So like I fucked up. And I did my time for it. So
okay. And now when people in the context of Jan 6, and Brianna, you touched on it with Brianna, but in the context of Jan 6, people say you're a Fed.
Fed. Yes.
And confounding the period when it happened with you were a Fed during January 6th, which you'd be the worst. You'd be a Fed as bad as Jake Lang, a Fed, which, end up in jail for 2 to 4 years. So like, I mean, and I know the backdrop, but to flesh it out a bit, you get in trouble with the law, and then it becomes a question of cooperating with authorities.
Yes.
For bigger and badder.
There was a story that came out that I was a Fed, and it was a mixture of different things, right? So the first one was I did a lot of government contracts even before my arrest in 2013, and I worked with a lot of agencies, technically through what was new to the game, which was encrypted chats. So I worked with them a lot in that aspect, in like a business sense, right? And then when I got picked up for 2013, they wanted me to turn on my brothers at the time, and my like actual brothers. They wanted me to flip on my brothers. Like, fuck you, I'm not doing that. They're like, all right, well, we're going to put them in jail if you don't help us. And you know what? I'm not 100% proud of it, but I did it. I used the contacts that I had before as a security contractor. I used that to go ahead. And what we did is there was a little Mexican criminal enterprise that was operating here in South Florida. And they did and I want to be clear, I'm not like presenting myself as some type of fucking hero or anything like that. But the enterprise was a sex trafficking enterprise that ran different businesses. They ran like, I think a gambling ring, a whorehouse, which had underage victims of sex trafficking.
Straight out of Miami Vice type stuff.
So we brought down the whole ring, So for that, I did get a reduction of sentence. And again, I'm not, it's not like, and it was never, here's the thing. Reuters was the first to report on it, but it was never a secret. I would, just like we're talking right now, I would talk about this openly before, right? And somehow when the mainstream media gets a hold of it, obviously people that don't watch my podcast or don't watch things that I've done, they're like, oh, this is new information, groundbreaking. It's not groundbreaking. Like everybody knew, and then they mixed, what they do is they kind of mix things in. So during the Trump years, I did work with authorities, local authorities, because it's a responsible thing to do. If I am going to put a rally together, like let's say in Washington, D.C. and Portland, if I'm bringing like 2,000 Proud Boys, that's a lot of, I'm going to use the word firepower. You know what I'm saying? If I'm hosting a rally, I don't believe in permits. Permits is given to me by my First Amendment. I don't have to pull permits for shit. If I'm going to go protest or I'm going to go do an event, I don't need fucking permits. So then there's Antifa and BLM. and they would want to assault Trump supporters. So I would work with local law enforcement. This also wasn't a secret, to make sure that I planned my events, if I'm going to put my event, to make sure that there was a barrier between us and them. And going into January 6th, this is the craziest part about January 6th. Going into January 6th, a bunch of Proud Boys got stabbed in DC, right, on December 12th. And I myself got stabbed on election night. So
with what and where?
with a knife, with a knife,
Yeah.
and under my gut, right, with a knife similar to this one. I know it's a little dark. It's not a big knife,
like a throwing dagger,
but it's like a stiletto kind of. Right?
That would be illegal in Canada.
Shit, probably your butter knives are illegal in Canada. But I got stabbed, so like, yeah, in the gut. I didn't notice for like 15 minutes later, which is weird. So if it's a responsible thing as an event organizer to fucking contact law enforcement, it's basically what I'm saying. So it was my responsibility to keep my guys safe and the attendees of the thing safe. So my communication with law enforcement, which was shown throughout the whole trial, was this is where we are. This is where we're going to march. So going into January 6th, I don't know how the fuck the jury, well, I know how the fuck the jury convicted us because they're pieces of shit.
You were convicted before you even got charged.
But the jury saw that my communication, like how are you going to commit an act of overthrow, seditious conspiracy, and try to overthrow the government of the United States if you're calling them and you're telling you're like telegramming your plans? Because we don't have anything to hide. I just don't want people hurt at the event. So that's
actually, and we'll get into that just before I forget the one question I have.
I'm sorry. I don't want to hijack, but somebody did say, didn't one of the guys that got stabbed testify against you at trial? Yes. One of the guys that I stayed there, I cried tears trying to help him. I stayed there at the hospital with him, ended up turning on us in the trial and taking the stand and lying about our plans to storm the Capitol.
Okay, and we are
get that,
and let's. I'm sure. This is the one time I'm not reading the chat live, so I won't be able to get to any of the. Enrique is going to see them if there's tipped questions or whatever. But going back to 2013, when you take down these criminal rings by, assisting the authorities, and now that it's known, or if it was known at the time, I mean, do you not have any concerns for people who might still be salty about that, even if it's a decade later?
I honestly don't give a shit if they're salty or not. The story's out there. They could think of what they want of me. But
I know, I mean, like salty also with the people who were taken down. Like, do you not?
What do you mean salty?
Like retribution? Do you not fear that the criminals who got taken down would have a grudge against you for the rest of their lives?
I don't care.
Okay,
honestly, I don't give a shit. Like, and I mean, I have probably like 3 or 4 knives on me. I can't carry, right? Which is something I'm trying to get. Let me not swing this knife.
Don't worry about it. It is beautiful. When I was growing up,
it is. It has my podcast name on it. Take a look at it.
And it's got This would 100% be illegal in Canada. What does that say?
That's our
War Boys.
Yeah, that's our podcast. The War Boys.
And you got the little. Well, if anybody can see, it's got the little ring thing in it. Here you go, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So that's 2013, unrelated, and when you're assisting the authorities, it's not remunerated. This is to lessen the sentence and help take down bona fide, legit, serious criminal organizations.
Yeah, not only that, they were trying to fucking we know how pieces of shit these prosecutors are. They were trying to put my brothers in jail.
Yes,
I want to be clear. I put my family first before anything, right? There's nothing I'm not willing to do for my family and my brothers. In this case, now with this seditious conspiracy case, there's nothing I'm willing to, by any means necessary. I will defend my tribe, and my tribe consists of my family, my brotherhood, and fellow Trump supporters. If I'm at an event and I see them getting assaulted.
Okay, now it's interesting. 2013 fine. Set it all aside. People can feel how they feel about it. When do the Proud Boys get founded, or when do you join the Proud Boys? Apparently, Enrique, I was told the chat is lively because it's 50 against you, 50 for you, or it's split in terms of judgment, but that's the internet.
That's great. I think that's a good ratio.
Well, look, I'm going to ask all the questions.
I mean, that's exactly how the Proud Boys operate. Like some agree with me, some disagree with me. some guys I don't like, but that's what brotherhood is. That's what the fraternity is. You can't. I'll give you a perfect example. So, have you ever been married?
Yes, I'm still married. Touch
Okay,
wood.
you're still married.
Yeah.
So, give me a percentage. How many times do you agree with your wife in a percentage? How many times do you agree with your wife?
I might be uniquely
I
fortunate.
mean, I don't want her to kick your
No,
ass over
sure.
this.
We the stuff that we've ever fundamentally disagreed on has been relatively innocuous, and I say she's gotten red pilled roughly at
Okay.
the same pace as me.
But like a disagreement, give me a. Do you agree with her 85% of the time? Is that accurate?
I'd say yeah, 85% of the
Okay, so if the person that you love, right, and the person that you most enjoy in life, right, if you could agree with her 85%, how do you imagine like your friends and politicians? Do you agree with your friends more often? That's usually a lot lower.
definitely less often. And
You-
even we take politicians like Donald Trump, with
Yeah.
whom I agree on the substantive issues more often than not, but there are some material disagreements which
Yeah.
I'll vocalize, but will not castigate him to the bowels of hell because I disagree on one
Yeah.
specific issue.
Yeah. So see, I right now, because of him giving me my life back, I don't care what he does. At this point, I don't care. It's personal to me, and I know I know I should be objective, but I don't. Again, I go back to like I put my family first, and him giving me my life back and like making my mom cease, like the suffering for my mother ceased. Like to me, I already hold him as family. So at this point, I'll be honest with you, like everything
He can
everything,
do no wrong.
everything can. I'm not going to say that he can do no wrong, but I will never. You will never hear me shit on him publicly or disagree with him publicly. Maybe on a private setting, I won't disagree with the president on this podcast. You will never hear me disagree with the president.
Well, and the funny thing is, you say like maybe that means I'm not objective. I think objectively assessing your subjectivity actually makes you more objective than not. And it's like yes, I feel personally indebted. He literally gave me my life back. He gave my mother her son back. And in as much as I might disagree with him on anything, I always say you criticize friends privately and you criticize foes publicly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so bringing it back to the Proud Boys, when you get involved, when did Gavin McInnes start?
I believe the date it was around June of 2016, June or July of 2016. And then I joined shortly after that. Then we had an issue in 2018 where again, here we go. It's like a fucking recurring theme. Some Proud Boys went and defended themselves in New York, right? Because they were being assaulted and they were in prison. Max and John were in prison for 4 years, so Gavin stepped down. We had elections.
It's a bona fide fight. It's not. I mean, when we're going to get into the terrorism part later, this is just it's like soccer hooligans getting into a fight at a bar. Not to reduce the Proud Boys to that, but that's the extent of the altercation.
I mean, there might be some accuracy in that statement. I mean, we wear the Fred Perrys. You know, there's a lot of nexus in there, and then a lot of like subculture and culture within the Proud Boys, because that's what it is. It's a cultural, besides being an organized like a fraternity, it is like a cultural thing for us. And you know, there's a lot of people that think exactly like the Proud Boys. It's not fringe views. We don't espouse fringe views.
Well, and when it's formed in 2016, what is the to use the French expression, the raison d'être? Like, what is the mission statement when Gavin creates this in 2016?
Make better men. That's it. That's what it's about. That's what it's always been about, and that's what it's about today. And that is the future of the Proud Boys. We make better men. There's many ways you do that, and we're not a focus group. It's not like a laser focus group. We have a very broad I guess area of operation, right? So like a pro-life group, you know what they're about. You know what their stances are without even having to ask. With us, when I tell you make better men, well, there's a million ways you could do that. You can make a person a better brother, a better son, a better father, a better husband, you know, and there's people in the organization. All we ask of our membership, you don't got to go to fucking rallies. You don't got to do security. We just want you at least once a month to go out with the boys and drink a beer. That's it. Right. And then there is where iron sharpens iron. Right. So maybe there's a guy lacking in his entrepreneurship, in his entrepreneur skills, and he's starting a new business and he's struggling, and I'm a business owner and I help him out. And then he gives me family advice. Maybe I'm having problems with my brother that I've never had, and he tells me, well, look, I have my brother and I usually have problems with him. This is how I solve it. So that's kind of the thing that we do. Most of the time we're talking about trucks, women, drugs, money, and just like what your typical American male talks about at a bar.
Now, someone I noted in a comment, I think it might have been on Twitter, said that originally there were principles, or not a mission statement, but
Your tenets.
the tenets.
Yeah.
And the person, I don't know it from a hole in the wall, said now they're mysteriously hard to find. Has there been an evolution of the Proud Boys over time in terms of how it originally started, what it was intended to do, versus what it has become? And I'm asking that non-judgmentally because I don't think it's become anything of a terrorist organization, but has there been an evolution over time where it might have veered away from the original reason?
No, I don't. It's for one, our tenets have never changed. There is one recently that I kind of want to change,
Go on.
but
oh, you can't leave me hanging. Which one?
no, I will tell you. So let me go through these. So absolute free speech. I do draw the line on like when you like if there's a death threat on somebody, I think that's wrong and you shouldn't do that. But extreme freedom of speech, absolute, we're absolute on like your Second Amendment rights, right? So like it's pretty fucking clear, and I don't understand, and I know everybody says this, including boomers and all of that, is shall not be infringed is a word in there, and it's been infringed, and we want to bring it back to what its original meaning was for. And then it's glorify the entrepreneur, right? We want to try to make better men by getting them out of their 9 to 5s and having them either have a trade or a business, right? And that's just an attempt, right? If you're happy in your 9 to 5, no problem. I'll try to get you out of it. I'll talk shit and see if I could get you out of that. Venerate the housewife, the housewife. And not everybody, like my woman's very, very independent. She's a business owner, but what ends up happening is a lot of women that do want that role of housewife, we believe that's under assault. And like the left kind of goes ahead and demonizes that position. Like it's not a very important position, right? The father and the mother create the family and create the future, right? Through their children. So that's very important. The one that I kind of want to change now is Gavin had put one up that was close prisons for profit. Well, close private prisons.
Yeah.
But I think we need to change that a little bit and elaborate. Let's stop mass incarceration. Private companies run prisons better than our government. Okay. I've been to 40. I know. If there's anybody more experienced in the difference between in the penal system in the United States, it's me. The private prisons are very pretty much open. You could contact your family a lot more. There's a lot better food. They're afraid to lose their contracts, so they make sure that everybody's treated equal and they're not excessive. You won't see these things that you see with the BOP with assaults on other inmates and things like that. So they do treat people better. But yeah, that's like the basis of our organizations, our tenets.
Okay.
Right.
I imagine the argument against the private prisons is that you end up dealing with situations of that judge who's basically, sentencing people so that even the private prisons have their sufficient population to receive whatever monies they have. But you say you've been to 40 jails/prisons. This is over the decades, not just in respect of the last 2 years.
No, this is in the respect of last 2 years.
Really?
Yeah, it's called diesel therapy.
Okay, we're going to get into that in a second. So before we even get into the diesel therapy, we're going to get back to January 6th.
Mhm.
And if anyone in the chat thinks I've missed a hard question, you'll let me know. So Proud Boys starts in 2016. It is a response to, I don't know if it's a direct response to a Trump presidency, but it's a political movement.
It's a cultural movement. It's not a political movement per se. It wasn't started because of Trump. It was actually started as a joke on Gavin McGinnis's show to get an intern laid. Right? He's like, oh, why are you? The dude was like a 20-something-year-old virgin. And he's like, don't you have friends? No. well, you're an intern here. Don't you aren't you part of a fraternity? He's like, no. Well, we're going to make this fraternity. And they went out one Friday night. They had a really good time. And then the next day on Gavin's show, since they had a good time, um, he's like, hey, you guys, he looks at the camera and he's like, hey, you guys should start your own Proud Boys chapters across the country. And we kind of did, and it was a really, really unofficial thing and really, really unorganized thing. And it kind of still is. There's just more of us now.
Do you know
We have communication with each other and we have established a system to create official chapters. And it's on our website. You go to proudboysusa.com. If the chapter's not listed on there, it doesn't exist.
Are you familiar with the Diagolon situation up in Canada? From a podcaster named Jeremy McKenzie, who it started off as an internet meme as well, and then people joined, and it became something of a brotherhood fraternity. Although it's not limited to men in that case, but then the government says this is a far right, radical, extreme organization that we need to treat as a terrorist organization, and they went after this guy Jeremy McKenzie as well. But it's some parallels there. So you started in 2016. You joined roughly at the beginning ish. 2018, there's an incident of violence. A couple of the members end up going to jail for several years.
Yes.
Is that when it starts getting its bad rap, or is Gavin McKenzie because of his reputation from the beginning?
No, I mean, we've always got a bad rap. And I don't think that comes from any singular event. Like, I'd say 99.9% of Proud Boys are Trump supporters. Right? That's why they hate us. At the end of the day, like, they call us extremists, right? Like, what's fucking extreme? What views do I always ask this, right? Like when I'm on the street and I see a liberal and they're like, oh man, the Proud Boys. Like, what of my views have you heard that are extreme? And if you can't tell me, like, ask me what my views are and tell me if they're extreme. Because they're not. They're like, they're on the borderline of normie conservative views.
Oh, it's the Eurocentric or the Western supremacy itself is
Western
civilization supremacy.
Western chauvinism is what we call it.
Okay, that's right. That's the actual term. That's the one. If you get down to someone who knows what they're objecting to, is the one that people are going to object to. The ones who don't know are going to say you guys are a bunch of Nazis and white supremacists.
Yeah,
which I know to be nonsense, but I don't know what
we know what they mean when they say European. We know what they're trying to say. They're trying to say German, Nazi. Like, that's what they're implying. Like, you might as well go over it and call me. I'm not going to say that word. You might as well just go ahead and just call me what you really want to call me.
Yeah, well,
you know what I'm saying? So, like, because that's really what they want to say. Like, I had on my Twitter feed, I had some lady the other day that put a picture from Roger Stone at an event for Roger Stone, and there's like some black guy in the back with like some glasses and like a beard, and she's like, is that you back there? And I'm like, lady, you just did the y'all look the same thing with me. You might as well go ahead and say the word you want to say. You want to call me the N-word? Just fucking call me the N-word. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, it's retarded. It's just like a name game. They want to throw everything at you to see what sticks. And it's been somewhat successful. You know what I'm saying? Because I got to argue this. This is a conversation I have to have this conversation with you, with other people, so I educate people. If you still don't like us after I show you what my view is, my personal view, you might a different Proud Boy might sit in this seat and might answer you differently. I'll say, hey, these are my views, and whether the audience decides and the listener decides if they like me or not. And honestly, one way or another, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, well, it is. People don't know what they hate. They understand. The media has been, I've lived through Canada through this, relentless about the Proud Boys, to the point where when it was designated a terrorist organization in Canada, I'm flabbergasted in terms of what is the most egregious example of violence they've ever partaken in. But it was all seemed very necessary to demonize it so that it could be created as the public enemy number one, which facilitated the prosecution come January 6th.
That's correct.
Okay, so now I don't know if there's anything relevant between 2018 2020 as relates to the Proud Boys. You'll let me know. Gavin McInnes steps down. Who's the new leadership, and are they less popular or more controversial than Gavin?
So when Gavin stepped down, we had like it was a very short period of turmoil, I guess. But all the presidents of the chapters got together and we created. We already had bylaws, so we kind of codified our bylaws and kind of made them real. And we made a coalition, we made a vote, and I was voted in. There was many people in this running, and
I was voted in unanimously by the entire organization as the chairman.
Okay. Okay, phenomenal. Which makes you now public enemy number one coming into January 6th.
What's funny is he stepped down because he was afraid that they were going to arrest him and other people in the organization as the leader of the group. And here I come. I'm like, hey, you know what? Who wants that job? I actually didn't want the job. I actually was kind of told by a couple of presidents. He's like, hey, these other guys, they're all right, but it needs to be you. And I kind of put my name in the hat without really wanting it at all. And I got voted in. I was like, well, you stepped down because you didn't want to get arrested, but I'm going to take your job. And then 3 years later, lo and behold, they kicked my door in and turned it into toothpicks. And I was, here we go.
Yeah, well, this is what we're getting to now. So, I mean, what was your not plan, but what was the anticipated course of action leading into January 6th? Because the election happens in November. Everybody feels it's not exactly the most cleanly run of elections. When do the Proud Boys say we're gonna show up and protest a little bit or have something to do on January 6th?
So you want to know what our plans was for January 6th?
I imagine it was a protest, but
no, it was more. All we wanted to do was listen to the fucking president speak. I was stated to speak at 2 different stages after the president spoke. And then we were going to have a little unplugged session with the lead singer from the Misfits at a hotel room in Virginia. And this was in succession to the Trump finishing his speech. Now, a lot of people here don't know that. But while Trump was still speaking, the Capitol was being breached. And they keep, we saw the left keep going, well, Trump sent all those people there. Well, we did the calculation. It takes exactly 32 minutes to walk from the ellipse to the Capitol, right? Trump finishes his speech. I believe it's at 1:14 p.m. By 12:58 p.m., a couple minutes later, the Capitol was already breached. So it wasn't Trump that sent anybody there. Was it a protest that went wrong? Yes, 100%. I don't think that anybody, myself or Stuart Rhodes, right, planned on ever doing what they accused us of doing.
Stuart Rhodes is the Oath Keeper, a founder or leader of the Oath Keeper.
Yes.
Is he still in jail?
No, he got his sentence commuted, so he's out.
Okay.
I've talked to him a couple times. We're putting some things together to make liberals' heads explode. But
well, I do eagerly await that. So the plan is to do something. You've notified the authorities of your intention to be present on January 6th. As of what date do you notify? Do you have to pull permits? Are you not pulling permits but saying we're going to be there anyhow?
Well, obviously, I tell you, we don't need no fucking permits. But actually, in one of the stages that I wasn't going to speak, I was the chief of staff for this organization that you've probably heard of called Latinos for Trump. And it was a Latino organization to get some outreach out in the communities. So they did procure a permit, and they put a stage together, and I was supposed to speak at it. So I really don't understand the timeline, because that's what the prosecutors did. They took our actual timeline and they hid it from the jury, and we tried to bring in this evidence, but the judge wasn't allowing it. Lo and behold, DC. So I don't understand what they were trying to portray. So what the fuck was I going to do? I was going to overthrow the U.S. government at 1 p.m., go speak at a stage at 1:30 p.m., go speak at another stage, and then go party with the boys at 2:30. Can I really overthrow the government in less than 15 minutes? That was what they accused me of, and that's what they told the jury. Not that the jury gave a shit, because the foreman of the jury is one of those fucking retards that put together that drag queen story hour thing.
This is what people I don't think they necessarily appreciate. You're being tried by a jury in DC. So in addition to being 95% Democrat, you have some of the 2S LGBTQIA plus proponents on the jury. Proud Boys openly and proudly protests drag time story hour, all of this.
Yeah.
So you're being tried by people who you are their mortal enemy, and they are I won't say they're your mortal enemy, but
you're a cultural enemy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if you're gay, right? I'm not. Don't clip that. I'm pointing at Frank. Here, I'm gonna do this.
This is how rumors get started.
That's how rumors get
Viva's
started.
sham marriage.
Yeah. So I don't care if you're gay, right? But if you show up to an event showing
Your
his
penis.
his tits, right? And like showing, I don't care if you chopped the pork and the beans, or there is these situations where they only chop the pork
Oh no,
and they leave the beans.
Up in Canada, they wanted to create a vaginoplasty without the penectomy. So they want to install the vagina, but not cut off the penis because, you know, the person's not certain how they want to live.
Well, I've seen it where they cut off the penis and they leave the balls.
Oh,
So that's kind of
my
weird, right?
goodness.
So wait, so let's get back on topic before we talk about.
Let me bookmark that. I'm going to Google some images on the way out.
Yeah. So like it's wrong. And I think almost 100% of America agrees. There's some retards that don't agree. Don't go in front of kids showing your he tits, right? In a fucking thing to read to kids. I won't allow it. And like, I'm not going to say the Proud Boys won't allow it. Like, Americans don't want that shit. Okay? Americans don't want that shit. It's wrong, right? And it's the sexualization of children. If that person, check this out, this is how the real world works. Let's say that person gets arrested for some other shit, and the people in prison find out that you're a drag queen reading to kids, they're going to fucking stab you. Okay? I keep pulling this knife out. They're going to put this thing through your fucking neck. Okay? Because that, to them, and to me, and to most Americans, is fucking sick. You're a sex offender. You shouldn't be around society, and you should be locked up. Let me put this knife.
And
you want these cookies?
No, thank you. No, thank you.
These are my mom's cookies.
I can't. If I eat, I got a couple of neuroses that you'll get familiar with.
Mom, he said that your cookies stink.
I'll take one afterwards. I can't eat live, and people are going to hear the ASMR of my mouth. No, first of all, I don't know where I learned this, that the word chomo or homo, people were throwing that.
Chomo.
Yeah, which I never knew was short for child molester, and you can't use it in prison because it's not relegated to any one type of adult who violates the innocence of a child. You're not even allowed identifying them in prison because there's prison justice.
If you were ever to use that as an insult to somebody and it's not true,
you
can't use that as an insult. You could drop the N-bomb. You could say the worst things to an inmate.
Because calling them that, if other people believe it, is a death sentence for them in prison justice.
Yeah. So for you fucking trannies out there reading the kids, don't ever go to prison. You're not coming out.
So you're being tried by the people who are familiar with your positions on this in DC, and the idea that, set aside political differences, the idea that anybody could understand what seditious conspiracy as a crime even means or how it's to be interpreted. You're being tried by people who hate you for these very reasons. They'd convict a ham sandwich, and you look a little more delicious than a ham sandwich. You get convicted, but actually, even back it up. How long in advance of January 6th were the authorities aware that you were going to have a presence there with the Proud Boys, or you personally?
I don't know what you're talking about with the food.
Well, not that I'm having that either, but what is that?
I think this water bottle has been there for about 4 years.
I would be worried about the water, but the plastics, but okay, bada bing, bada boom. They know you're there in advance because there was infiltration in your communications for months before. When did they know that you guys were going to be there?
Well, no, there wasn't infiltration in our communications. Our chats were pretty locked down. They got those from my phone and other people's phone that they confiscated. I'll do a PSA on encrypted chats in a second, but the actual event was announced by the president. You know, the "Be There, Be Wild" tweet. That was on December 19th at like 1 a.m. I already had told the guys if they wanted to go to the event on January 6th by the morning of December 19th. And once they told me yes, I told him, look, I'm going to communicate with my liaison in DC and tell them that we're coming, that we're not going to come in a big crowd because we decided not to come in a big crowd. Thank God. There would have been a lot more arrests of Proud Boys. And and we so they knew, they started to know that I was coming as of December 19th.
Yeah.
And they, you know, I communicated as things change. I told them, look, because here's another thing that people don't know. So Trump didn't announce that he was actually speaking at the event until like 2 or 3 days before January 6th. So we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know because if a whole bunch of people put stages all across DC to speak, right? And the president were suddenly, which is exactly what happened, the president were suddenly to say, hey, I'm going to go speak at the Ellipse. Like, nobody's going to be at your fucking events. So everybody was waiting and being like, oh, is he coming? Is he not? So some people pulled permits, you know, preemptively, and they kind of just had the permits and they never used them. So as the dynamics of the event changed, I kept my liaison informed. And liaison is assigned to you by, it's not like a, just to be clear, it's not like an informant thing. A liaison is an event liaison. So when you're hosting an event, that's the person that you're going to talk to, because that's the person that's going to be in charge of like the actual security for the event as far as local police department. So, yeah.
Okay. So they know, they at least 2 weeks in advance, they knew you're going to be there. You get arrested on the 5th, correct?
I get arrested on the 4th. I knew I was going to get arrested on the 4th, though.
Why?
I came into the city because I admitted to burning a BLM banner, proudly burning a BLM banner on December 12th at the previous rally.
So you get arrested for burning a BLM banner, but you get celebrated for burning the American flag in Biden's America.
Yeah, you're going to get max sentence if you burn a BLM flag in DC.
So you burnt a BLM flag on December 12th. You knew that you're getting, what the hell charges do you think you're getting arrested for? Like, what are the charges? Mischief?
It's a misdemeanor, destruction of property.
Okay.
I already knew because of like multiple sources asking me. Like, I had the media, I had sources in law enforcement that were telling me. I had the local Miami-Dade Police Department reach out and say, hey, do you want to comment on this? No, I'm not going to comment on it. So they
get a complaint that you burnt a BLM flag, which itself, I don't know if it's an officially recognized flag. They get the complaint. They're like, you want to come talk to us? You know that this is going to go down. And they arrest you on January 4th. Where were you when they arrested you?
Now, my goal with getting arrested on January 4th, DC's a no bail state, right? No cash bail state. So I knew I'd get released the next day. I'm like, let me fly in a day earlier so I could get arrested, which is crazy, and then get bonded out the next day. And then I can go to January 6th and I could speak on these stages or whatever. But the judge kind of threw a curveball at me that I wasn't expecting. And she's like, okay, you're going to bond out, but you can't be in DC pretrial. So you have to leave immediately. And I was like, fuck, damn it. I wanted to do the event, but it wasn't a big deal, because I'm like, the worst thing that happened was, okay, well, I'm not going to listen to the president speak. You know, I'm still going to hang with the boys. They'll come to Baltimore after they do the whole events throughout the day. So it wasn't a big deal. So we weren't planning an insurrection. So I'm like, damn it, I can't be there, you know? And obviously, after I saw what happened, like most people that weren't in DC, I saw the events of January 6th unfold on the news, right? Later on in the night, I'm like, well, good thing. Good thing I wasn't there, or else I'd be arrested.
And so when do you get arrested on the seditious conspiracy? It was was it a year later? A year later, because they couldn't find evidence. So you get off, they let you out on the burning the flag.
Oh man, the Canadian came out of there. I hadn't heard it.
A boot. They let you out on the burning of the flag. Are you on you're on probation? What? Not probation.
I'm on pretrial.
Pretrial. A year.
I ended up doing out of a 6-month sentence, I ended up doing like 4 months because they do good time
for burning the fucking flag.
Yeah,
you did 4 months in jail.
Maximum sentence. They gave me maximum sentence. Technically 6.
When did you serve that? Between getting arrested,
September of 2021 and January of 2022.
Okay, so hold on. So you're in jail while they're building the case for seditious conspiracy against you
The DC Gulag. Yeah,
on burning the flag.
I'm burning the flag. And I
It blows my mind that I didn't know this. Holy shit.
and I was the only person. I was the first person throughout COVID, because you remember how DC was about COVID. I was the only person at that very moment for the past, I think it was, at that point, it was, what were we under? Like 2 years of COVID? A little bit over, or yeah, about 2
Just
years of
over 2
COVID.
years.
I was the first person, misdemeanant, right? Because that's what you call the people that get charged with misdemeanors. I was the first misdemeanant since COVID to be incarcerated. There was a policy by the Department of Justice in DC, the District of Columbia, that they weren't going to ask anybody for jail time when it came to misdemeanors, because they didn't want to fill the prisons, the jails. They didn't want to fill the jails with people. So here comes along me, and the judge was like, no, I'm going to give you max sentence. He actually tried to give me a 1.5 years, which is an illegal sentence. And then he resentenced me to another illegal sentence to 9 months. The prosecutor had to cut in and be like, look, Your Honor, the maximum you can give him is 6 months. And he swings the gavel and he gives me 6 months. But he wanted to give me a 1.5 years for burning that fucking banner.
Holy crap. So you're in jail, and while you're in jail on that, they're literally building. What time do you have to go?
I got a little bit.
Okay.
I could probably do like another 10, 15 minutes.
Okay, well, then we're going to move a little faster.
And you can have me on again with no problem. It's just since we started late,
Absolutely.
I'm going to Mar-a-Lago. So.
Okay, very
Yeah.
well. I won't ask, but I'll find out later. So they're building this case while you're in jail, and then you get out, and then they charge you again for seditious conspiracy.
Yes.
And they have what is nothing but the biggest sham of us. How long did the trial last, for those who don't know?
It's the longest trial in DC history, running trial in DC history. We were in trial for 6 months.
Yeah.
Every day. Every day we'd have to wake up at 4:00 in the morning, get put in chains, and get travel to the District of Columbia from Virginia.
You had been in pretrial detention since your arrest, which was 2 years before the trial. You briefly mentioned it, but the diesel treatment, just so people understand, you had been in the system earlier, so you sort of understood the abuses that go on in there. But just for those who aren't familiar, what the hell goes on in these prison systems? The diesel treatment in particular.
Okay, so the diesel treatment is horrible. Basically, I was moved from prison to prison. There's 40 prisons. And then they had me labeled as a domestic terrorist. What that does is it puts you in a completely different category. So they put you in these things, and your audience can Google it. It's called box cuffs. It looks like a medieval torture device. And then you have a leather band around your stomach, and you're literally hooked on like this.
It's Nick Cage from Con Air.
And sometimes like this, right? Which is even more uncomfortable because there's nothing you can do. Right? Here, at least you can grab something. But this is pretty bad. So sometimes and by the Geneva Convention, you could only have an inmate in those handcuffs for 4 hours. I was in those handcuffs traveling across the country for 26 hours in a van. And that was just one trip. There's a whole bunch of these trips, you know?
Can I ask, I mean, just a stupid question, not silver linings, but can you look out are you seeing beautiful scenery, or you're on the highway going from one hellhole to the next?
Yeah. So yes, it sucked. But on November 5th, when Trump won, they kept transferring me anyways. And I was like, all right, fuck you guys. You could transfer me. You could put me in the hole. You could put me in solitary confinement. I don't give a shit. I'm going home. But yeah, before that, you know, it was a roller coaster of emotion. Sometimes I felt great. Other times I felt like shit, you know. But at the end, I knew I was going home earlier one way or another. We already beat them at the Supreme Court back in June. We beat the obstructing an official proceeding, you know, which that was across the board. We hadn't even put our direct appeal yet. We had high hopes for the direct appeal. And then we had President Trump. So which I prefer to win that way, because it's the biggest fuck you middle finger that I can give. And now I could say, you know, now I could sit here and say, like, I'm glad these fucking prosecutors are fired. I'm glad these FBI prosecutors are fired. And to Judge Kelly, that's hopefully would get this, and maybe some media outlet would report on this. Fuck you, Judge Kelly.
The question is, I mean, first of all, do you remember where you were when Trump was shot the first time in Butler? Did you hear about this in jail?
Yeah, actually, I fucking freaked out because I was listening to it on the radio and I was kicking back. I was actually reading a book, and I had it on the radio, and I'm listening, and I hear pop, 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 and I hear the screams, and I'm like,
if he died, I mean, this is.
I ran out I had the banger. We call it the banger. I had the knife in my like on my side, and I ran out, and I went. The TVs over there work by color, right? The white people TV, the blacks TV, the Hispanic TV. So the white TV is the only TV that I know that they have the remote to and can change very fast. I went up to the head white guy and I'm like, you better change that shit right now. He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, he inflated himself. I grabbed the banger, right? And I go, the president just got shot and he's probably dead. And I'm freaking out, you know? And immediately his demeanor changes, like, no way, Trump got shot. And he goes and he grabs the control and he changes it. When I find out that the president wasn't shot, then sigh of relief.
It's a it was a line. The only line I remember from Capote, the stupid movie where, you know, when the guy murdered someone, he said he effectively ended 4 lives that day. Had Trump gotten killed that day, you're in jail for the rest of your fucking life. Like, not 22 years is 22. It's your life.
Yeah, it's not 4 years. It's not 2 years.
Even if you could make 22 years, survive there.
Yeah.
Jake Lang, the so-called violent Jan 6ers are there for life.
Yeah.
Kamala Harris wins, or Nikki Haley, you know, becomes the your life is
Thank
over.
God, like you're.
It's
like.
Do you believe in God?
Of course.
Okay.
Yes, I'm a Christian man.
It is it's I mean, that turn of events in and of itself. He survives July 13th. The nutcase in Florida doesn't get a shot off. He wins the election in such a decisive manner. You now realize you are going to, God willing, get a second life, get a second kick at the bucket of life.
Yeah. And I mean, it was an amazing feeling. You know, but if that
bullet hits,
if that bullet hits, it would have been like, you know, I was more worried for him, right? Because again, like my hope was still there. I still felt like the appeal process would have, or the Supreme Court was really our only hope besides Trump. But I was worried for the country, right? Like, what direction the country, like I'm in prison, right? I'm in prison, so I'm living like the worst of it. I'm like, things are gonna get worse. Like, more political prisoners are gonna come in here, you know, for other things. And we didn't just see it with this J6 thing. We also saw it with those pro-life protesters that look, Bev, you know, Bev was just standing outside and she blocked the roadway. She's like, fuck you, you're not coming in. Well, they gave her 3 years for that. The president pardoned her, thank God. So the world would have, I think right now it was like these two realities, right, that were going to happen. And the entire world, not just the history of the United States, the entire world was going to change and had these two paths, and it was good and evil. And we were at the brink of going either way. And here it comes. And the president turned his head, thankfully. Bullet missed. You know, 1,600 families have been reunited. I'm happy for 1,594 of them, right? I don't know the exact number, but for 6 of them, I don't give a shit. Which are those that turned state against their brothers. I do wish them well, but I don't care for it. A bus can hit them tomorrow, and I'll continue to eat my lunch.
It is like when the bullet missed, and then I say it's not just that the world would have descended into chaos. In my life had never felt as though, like, if someone had said, if it had happened, and then someone says, okay, well, now we are forming actual militias because this is that. I could have been convinced to join a group out of retribution, because I never felt more emotionally invested in something than that. And what we witnessed was a miracle. The ones who turned state against you, and the irony in all of it is that had they not, they'd be in the exact same position, but with their dignity.
Yeah.
Flesh it out a bit for those who don't know.
I'm actually happy that the president was extremely objective when handing out these pardons, right? He said it right, and you've heard me say this before. He said that he was going to go case by case and make a decision on each one of those cases, and he did, and he made the decision to pardon everybody, because of the way, not their actions, not the actions that people took, but because of the process. The process was corrupt. So I don't care who you are. If you got hit with charges for the events of January 6th and you had to go through the DC judicial system, you should be pardoned.
Trump is going to be president for 4 years. You're going to be a target, I presume, of future administrations who may be hostile, but assuming that there's not a bit of a realignment of ideas and ideals to something sensible. But what's your plan going forward now?
So, like, obviously we're in a celebratory phase where we're winning. The president's doing all these great things. And I think we're going to see that for the next 4 years. I do worry that, and I think they're actively, they saw where they fucked up. The Democrats and the liberals saw where they fucked up. And I think they're very organized. And I believe that they might be coming stronger. Is it enough for 2028? I don't know. I think the chances are high that we take the White House again in 2028, but in that off chance that we don't, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I might, if I see things get rough, I might have to. I don't want to sound like all those other people that say leave the country, but I'm going to tell you one thing right now. I'm not going back to prison. There's no way in hell I'm going back to prison. So I'm just going to say that. Let's leave it at that. I'm not going to go back to prison.
Proud Boys isn't going anywhere either.
The Proud Boys you could, as a matter of fact, I got something in here. The Proud Boys are going to continue what they've done in the previous 8 years of existence. It hasn't changed, do the goals change a little bit? Yes, but like the overall stance on the club has never changed. We're not going anywhere. And I keep hearing things like this. I'll let you take the microphone a second so I can show you.
Yep. Well, and while you're getting that, do you remember when and what was your reaction to the Proud Boys being designated a terrorist group in Canada by Justin Trudeau?
Yeah. So the Proud Boys, we did have a chapter in Canada, and I think the most that they did is they went and held signs out of their 5-year existence. They went and they held signs at an event once, and it was an event for some other political prisoners over there in Canada, and they weren't very active publicly. Public life wasn't a thing for them. So their designation as Proud Boys, a terrorist organization, is the most laughable shit in the world, but it did put our Canadian brothers in jeopardy. Some of them actually moved into the United States. But I want to show you this, and if you Google the end of the Proud Boys, right, there is articles all the way from 2017 forward. There's millions of articles that said, "Oh, the Proud Boys are finally over," and I think
This is from the Rolling Stone.
This is from the Rolling Stone, and they do have like some cool pictures.
The rise and fall of the Proud Boys.
So, and this article is a 2021 article. I'm standing here in front of you. You've seen my guys in the streets up till recently. So there is no end or fall of the Proud Boys, because not only we do have an organization, like I said, we have the right to exist.
What month is that, if I can ask, of the issue?
I
bet you it's February. Let's see if I got that.
Issue August.
Later on. It's no, I'm convinced that the designation of the terrorist group in Canada was strictly to facilitate Biden administration's persecution of every member in the states.
It's possible. Or they would extradite. They would arrest here and extradite to another country and jail us in other countries, which was a possibility. But the organization's not just like a group of autonomous chapters, right? That form a coalition, and you can catch them at proudboysusa.com. It's also an idea, right? It's these values, these family first, America first values, right? And everything starts for us. Everything starts at home, right? Get your house in order and then work on everybody else. Like, kind of when you go on in the airplane, they tell you put your oxygen mask on before you save anybody else. Save your family and do your things first, and then I don't want a recruit for my local chapter. I don't want a recruit that wants to put the Proud Boys first. I want somebody that's, and it doesn't mean that I won't take somebody that's a little flawed to try and then, try to work on like some of the things that I see, and maybe he finds flaws in me and we kind of work with each other. But you have to put your family first. You got to put your tribe first. And that's what we're about. That's what we've always been about, and we will continue to do so. And there is no end to the Proud Boys, because those values are the values of a good portion of America.
Now, speaking of family, you're 40. I'm not asking your fiance how old she is. Are you thinking, you don't have any kids yet, correct?
No.
You thinking of starting?
Yes.
Okay, well, hold on. That's my segue, people. I have never been able to actually, I've started a thing now where I'm actually going to give a gift, because my wife ordered 50 of these. There's a message in there and some stickers.
Oh,
Louis the Lawfare. It's a kid's book that I wrote that we just published on Amazon.
Oh, that is cool.
And if you open, there's a message in there. It basically says, enjoy your second newfound life, because it's a wild thing that you're born again in a literal sense. A month ago, you were rotting in a prison. You knew that you were going to get out as of, when I don't know how you knew, but whatever, it was a strong possibility, or at least you can overturn it in appeal, and you're in jail for the years. You got a new lease on life. And I don't know what that can possibly feel like, but I imagine it has to feel good.
It feels great. It's still not real to me, but it's there. And then I'm guessing this is from your.
Those are my stickers. Yeah, those. I just.
So if anybody knows my stuff, has ever gone to a rally with me, and I want you to do the honors. I carry these everywhere. Alex Jones gave me that one. Owen Schroyer sent me all the stickers from there. And go ahead and put.
Let me see where there's a good spot. I know in the turf war, I can't put it over someone else's.
That the point is, you could put it over someone else's, because it's overlapping. That's kind of how we build it.
I can get my.
Don't like.
No, I'll go right here. That's perfect.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. Let's see where this lands Viva on the radar of wherever. Oh, it's a little crease, but that'll do good.
Fine. All of them have creases. I don't know how to put stickers on.
And by the way, there was a guy, a sponsor on our channel. He's not a sponsor. He puts up chats. Anton Biltong is in the house. I can't read the chats, but Anton Biltong, vitamin, creatine, all the good stuff. And biltongusa.com. There's a Rumble rant in there. You have your own. You do podcasting. I mean, are you doing?
I have not. We have not. Yes, I will be launching our podcast, because Ethan and Biggs, and we're bringing back what's called the War Boys, which
it's a very scary name, the War Boys.
It is.
You got the Proud War Boys.
Yeah. So it's our show, and we're gonna because of January 6th, we haven't been able, so we're gonna relaunch an episode with a very, very special and controversial guest, because we like controversy and we like good shows and we like good content. And I think in the next couple weeks we'll get that up.
Amazing. And Twitter, you are Noble One.
Noble One spelled out ONE.
Noble,
yeah.
ONE, 0NE.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, ONE.
Like, so Noble, ONE.
Rhymes with Obi-Wan. So I'm a big Star Wars nerd myself.
I think I got that.
I can't believe I just fucking admitted that on live.
No, well, you don't get hate for being a Star Wars nerd. I say I've never liked Star Wars, and I tend to get some flack for that. I didn't like Lord of the Rings, and I don't like Marvel movies. So
I like the Marvel movies.
Yeah,
I actually like them.
the only one I have ever liked is Deadpool 1, not Deadpool and Wolverine, which is the most idiotic
I
crossover.
haven't seen it, but I haven't seen Deadpool. I was in prison, but I do like the Marvel thing. I don't like the Lord of the Ring thing. And I grew
Harry
up.
Potter,
I
I
grew
never-
up as a kid. That was like my thing. I was in like fucking Yoda tidy whities, like fucking watching it. So like I got addicted to it. So I like the stories. I read like a motherfucker. I read outside. I read
in
inside.
prison. There's nothing to do but
Yeah.
read and
When you swing by the house one day, I'll show you my library.
amazing.
Yeah.
Enrique, we will do this again because I still got some more questions. Sir,
Of course.
enjoy your new lease on life. And I'm going to go over there and hit end stream.
And whenever you want, you're welcome to use my studio. Whenever you do a one-on-one.
Well, if there are good reasons why I'm in Miami, and
Yeah.
we'll do it again.
Yeah, because what's that other studio you go to?
The locals. It's
You know what I don't like about it? It's like they have like the locals logo. Like I want to put my stuff there. Like why are you?
well, because it is for the locals creators. So we have, but what I like about it is that I don't have to do a lick of text. So I get there and there's Justin in the back, and I like the smell.
We're gonna
also.
fix that. You need to be as independent as possible. We're gonna build
the one thing I can't do. I can't do interview. I can't do this at home because I have 2 special needs dogs who.
You got a single man that's really nice. You got like all the LEDs behind you. That's not like a green screen, right?
No, that's
Okay.
that we've set up. Nice. I just
That's
can't.
nice.
I can't host guests very easily in the house
Yeah.
because
You got people. You got the wife.
I got dogs that defecate in the house because one is
older.
paralyzed.
Yeah.
But Enrique, it's what's amazing is people are going to watch this. They're going to find a reason to continue to hate the Proud Boys, or they'll find the one guy. But when you look at him, he's bad. He's got mean tattoos. 45,000 people. You're not going to like everybody within a fraternity. Period.
I don't.
But it's a fraternity which, in theory, is for whether or not people think it's the betterment of men. It's definitely Western chauvinist values. Which, if you think that's a bad thing, then maybe you shouldn't be living in the West. It's not a complicated.
Like Ricky
solution.
Bobby, if you think that Western chauvinism is a bad thing, well, fuck you.
And we will end it on that. Now I'm going to go over there and hit end stream.
Yeah.
Everybody, thank you all for being here. And you're going to read some chat while I do this.
I've been reading it the whole time. Enrique seems based. Yeah, I think I am. Yeah. You got an interesting watch group right here.
It's across 4. That's going to get 3 platforms, but
Yeah.
I'll have to go.
No, they're all YouTube comments, so it's look, I'm actually getting. I thought I was gonna get hate for the Star Wars thing.
Yeah, well, first of all,
Getting a lot of love for it.
I think people who thought that they didn't like you
Yeah.
are going to like you now. That's my prediction.
I think so. I mean, look, listen, I don't got fucking fringe views, and
You're a
not
mildly reasonable person.
I'm not like a retard or like a fucking.
No, you'll get in trouble for using the word retard, but that word has been taken back now. And if you get offended by the word retard, you might be retarded.
Yeah, you might be retarded.
All right, I'm hitting end here.
All right. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining. And a 1.